This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello, and welcome back to the Great Film Challenge here on the Flying Cow. I, of course, am Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, and back with me again is my co-host for this podcast, my nephew, Aaron. Aaron, how we doing today?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing all right. Anything crazy happened in the last, 20 minutes since we recorded the last one?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. All right. Well, as promised, we are back to talk about, I was about to say again, but this is the first time we've talked about this movie,
Yep.
and that is Airplane from 1980, which was a Abrams Zucker presentation, directed by all three of them, directed specifically by Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker, written by the same three, based on an airport film of the from the 50s, actually, called 0 Hour, and it stars Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Leslie Nielsen, Lloyd Bridges, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Peter Graves, the list, Robert Stack. The list goes on and on and on and on. And so, Aaron, this was a film that you and I watched.
Yes.
Do you remember what we watched before I put this on? Or did you watch anything? I know that I had just finished watching something.
You were at the end of watching something.
Right.
And I came in and I don't remember how, but I was talking about Top Secret. and
That's what it was.
the
Yeah.
Monty Python movies.
Yeah.
And then you told me about Airplane.
Right. So, did you have any thoughts when I was like, let's watch Airplane? Did you have any thoughts or knowledge of this film going into it before you watched it?
No knowledge of the film itself other than what you had told me.
Right.
And I think you said it was about based off 0 Hour or something like that.
Yeah.
Once we had actually started it. But when you told me it was kind of similar to like Top Secret and the Monty Python movies, just absolute silly.
Yeah.
And you also said it was kind of like making fun of airplane drama, like the 0 Hour. I was like, I'd like to see this. How are they gonna tie? Are they gonna be in a airport the whole time?
Right. Well, yeah, so, like I said, this came out in 1980, and there had actually been a string of, I think they were just called airport dramas. There were just a lot of films based in and around airports, on planes, just at the airport, things like that. But it was like a serious genre.
Yeah.
that had just kind of been, and I think it had already started to, like, I think one of the last serious ones that they did was like in the 70s. But this was, I think it was one of Abrams Zucker's first projects. And it's just a send up of those types of films. And what's really funny is that if you get a script of 0 Hour, there are full sections that are basically the same.
Yeah.
If you compare it to the Airplane script, it's almost exactly the same. But it is done in such a way in Airplane. I mean, I'm sure it's ridiculous in 0 Hour too, but they kind of draw attention
Yeah.
to the ridiculousness. And apparently somebody's printing something right now.
Awesome.
It's okay. But yeah, so, obviously you've never seen any of those airplane films.
No.
I haven't either, really, although I am kind of interested in watching 0 Hour just to kind of see how it plays. But this also kind of started a new career for Leslie Nielsen. Because before this, he was pretty much just known for, like, serious films. Like, he played, the bad guy, the boss, the heavy, in films. He was very much a serious actor. And honestly, that's really what makes him work in this, because he plays it straight. He plays it like he's not making a joke. He plays it like it's a regular film, but that mixed with the absurdity of what's going on is what makes it funny.
Yes.
Had you seen Leslie Nielsen in any other things before we watched this?
It was called The Naked Gun, right?
Yeah.
That was the only other one I've seen him in.
You saw the first one?
The first one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I know I have seen bits of those movies, but I don't know if I've ever actually watched any of them all the way through. Honestly, you've probably seen more of that side of Leslie Nielsen than I have, because definitely when he got to like the Naked Gun movies, he really kind of started embracing the silliness.
Yes.
And I mean, I know that there's like a whole generation that's what they know Leslie Nielsen for, and so I'm not going to speak against that, but I will say that I think that what he's doing here, especially for this film, is pitch perfect. Because I think if he had been playing the joke, it just wouldn't have worked as well.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so, like I said, like you said, I brought this up because you've seen Top Secret. I actually haven't. It is one that I've been wanting to get to, and so at some point we probably will watch that. But do you have any thoughts, like, because I believe they're made by the same people. So, like, do you prefer one over the other, or like what were the things that you thought were similar, or the differences? Like, kind of compare those two for me.
I feel like Top Secret had a lot more, I wouldn't really say visual gags, maybe, but things like physical things behaving the way that you wouldn't have expected them to.
Sure.
And Airplane was more so focused on the consistency of the just wild events that continued to go on with no stop at all.
Sure. I mean, I will say you brought up visual humor. What I like about this movie is that it draws on jokes there are visual jokes.
Yes.
There are also spoken jokes.
Mm-hmm.
There are references. There's pretty much any type, there's puns. Pretty much any type of joke that you could think of is in this movie, and they're really kind of stacked on top of each other.
Yes.
It's like I've said, it's jokes upon jokes upon jokes a lot of times. And some of them, what I find interesting is that some of the jokes in this movie, I think they still land, but they've kind of morphed, if that makes any sense.
Kinda.
Like, with the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar thing.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a legitimate basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
The joke in that was initially supposed to be that, I believe 0 Hour also featured a sports icon.
Huh.
But they drew no attention. And this guy was not an actor at all. Kareem actually ended up doing a little bit more acting after this, but this guy was just randomly in the film and like, again, just like Kareem, stuck out like a sore thumb, but nobody ever drew any attention to it. So that was the kind of, it was kind of that winking nod to the people that had seen the joke, that had seen the film. We haven't seen 0 Hour.
No.
But we're still laughing at the fact that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in the film because it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
And because of the way that they did draw attention to it. You know, the whole bit with the boy, aren't you? No, I'm not him.
No.
You know, and the whole thing, well, my dad thinks you're lazy. You know, that whole bit.
My dad says you do better if you were on defense more. That was really funny.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, you're more aware. Have you ever even seen a game where Kareem played? Yeah, again.
I didn't even know who Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was until you told me he was a basketball player. And I was like, oh, that's the joke.
But I mean, even if I hadn't told you, wouldn't just this big, tall, gangly, you know, pilot, that kind of is a joke in itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, there are jokes that have kind of morphed that don't necessarily have the same meaning that they did when they first came out, but they're still funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I love about the film, because honestly, there are some films now that, you know, came out, you know, a couple of years ago, and you watch them now and they're just not as funny.
Yeah.
Because they hit a specific moment or things like that. And like I said, there are things that are referenced in this film, but the jokes still land.
Yes.
You know, like I said, the humor is evergreen. So I think, you know, they were just really smart about the way that they, how they decided to pitch the jokes.
Because it was all mostly just broad, general humor that couldn't really age.
Yeah. Now, what would you say was your favorite? Did you have a favorite part of the movie, or even a favorite joke of the movie?
I'm not sure what my absolute favorite would be, but I did find it really funny. The guy we had seen get in the taxi at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And we see him like 2 or 3 times throughout the movie after, and he's still just in the taxi waiting.
Oh yeah, with the pilot character, Robert Hayes.
Yes.
Yeah, that poor guy is gonna have a really steep bill.
Yeah, because he had left it on.
Yeah.
While he left.
Yeah. Okay, I will say, for me, some of my favorite jokes, and I don't know, because unfortunately we had to keep starting and stopping it because we're in a house with a whole bunch of other people.
Yes.
But my favorite bit is the running thing with Lloyd Bridges, where he's just like, I picked the wrong day to quit smoking. But it keeps ramping up to where eventually it's things like, I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. You know, it's just ridiculous things.
It was so... I remember that part.
Yeah. And the running bit where they would be like, they would go through a whole series of things. They're like, we're going to have to get this information from the airport. What's that? Oh, it's this building where the planes are.
Yeah.
But let's not talk about that right now.
That one was pretty funny. I didn't remember a whole lot, but
yeah, I mean, it was the same setup, but a different joke every time. But yeah, those types of things, the word humor, I mean, in the visual, you know, I pointed this one out to you, the nun reading the boy's life, and then if you keep watching, you see a boy reading nun's life.
Yeah.
You know, just all of that fun silliness. Did you have a favorite performance at all, or was it just bits that you were really attracted
I'd
to?
say more so bits.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about for this film?
Not that I
The
can
gears
think
are
of.
grinding, folks.
I can't really think of much else.
No? That's all right. All right. Well, then we will be back next time. We'll talk about Gladiator.
Yes.
Sound good, Aaron?
Mhm.
Yeah? All right. Well, then, yes, we will be back talking about Gladiator. But until that time, moo.